Hi, good afternoon. It's Roger with S&G Carpet here, your VP of Supply Chain Management. Today we're going to be talking about hardwood, and the first thing I'd like to talk about actually is hardwood, or wood as we call it, and diamonds. Yes, diamonds. Diamonds and wood. And the first thing we want to talk about is our friend the tree over here. So the tree is similar to a diamond in that when we cut the tree, we try and get the best produced product that we can. And each tree, of course, is unique unto itself and can never be replicated. So I've written down a couple things. First of all, a living tree has 50% of its living tissue is actually water, which is important to know because the way the tree can grow and give itself nutrients, which creates, of course, hardwood forests. And in our case, because we do FSC lumber, certified council, forestry certified council, that our trees and our lumber that we get is sustainable. So we have a nice chain that we support, the FSC committee, and we definitely try and buy lumber from them when we can, in all cases, to my knowledge, at this moment. So 50% of the tree is living. 27 minerals can actually live in the tree, or the tree can derive from out of the earth. And the reason why I put that up there is, number one, is it's similar to diamonds. Just like I said, trees and diamonds, the way they're cut is what we get. Also, you see the minerals, of course, diamonds are made out of carbon, which is something the tree can actually produce as well. So minerals, sometimes you'll get in, especially maple, a lot of times we'll see it, it's called a mineral streak, and that's merely just the tree that's unique, again, pulling nutrients from the earth, which will change the color of the lumber on occasion. The next thing I'd like to talk about is actually the tree itself after it's cut and the branches have been trimmed. It looks like a log, of course, and the center section is what we call the pith, and it's P-I-T-H, and this is actually the sustainability of the tree that grows up the center. The next word here is V for vascular ring, and that is actually the rings that you would see when you were taught in grade school about the tree and how it grows, and each year, which is true, it does add a ring. They call it spring wood and summer wood. And the growth, actually for a year's growth, produce that ring. The next word is sap. Sapwood is actually the growth, that is part of that yearly cycle. That's the growth of that tree, and that is the soft living tissue of the tree. The last word here is heart, which is heart pine, which is actually, pardon me, it's called heartwood. So heartwood is the section of the tree that is the hardest, and you've heard the term called heartwood pine, and heartwood pine just means that it's the part of the tree that is the hardest. And because pine is very, very soft, they tend to only like to use the heartwood part of it to give it the maximum durability. Plus pine trees grow pretty quickly, so not too hard, and it's also very, of course we use a lot of pine lumber and so forth, so the rest of the tree is used in its fullness. So dealing with our tree, and this is what we have, I want to draw another log for you so I can show you that there's a few ways that we cut the tree, similar to the diamond again. We can take a blade and actually run the tree up to a blade, kind of like a lathe, and they rotate the log, and it will actually peel it. Peel the tree, and this part that gets peeled off is what we call the veneer. The other couple methods that we can, there's actually three, we can actually cut into the log. A lot of you have heard the term called quarter sawn. So this is done in this fashion, and we actually take slices out of the tree, and it can either be what we call sawn lumber, it's important, sawn, or sliced. And either one of those methods produce this type of look. Usually on veneers they can be peeled up to about 2 millimeters, maybe 2.5 millimeters. Anything over that we use sawn or sliced. Sliced is a little more beneficial because we don't have any waste of the tree. When we actually saw the tree back and forth, of course it creates sawdust and we lose a little bit of the lumber. Of course it's recycled, we can turn it into particle board or paper. There's a lot of uses for it. But for our purposes today, this is called quarter sawn. There's another term called plane sawn, like this. We cut the tree like this. Or if we take a smaller section out, this is actually called rift sawn, R-A-F-T, which I'm sure you've heard of that. So by doing these different methods, we get a different visual veneer. Usually if it's sawn or sliced, you're going to get more of a U type of configuration. If you just go around the veneer and you rotary or you peel it, you're probably going to get a lot sharper and steeper, pointier, or just actually as the tree grew, it's going to be a lot more irregular. You're going to get a lot more characteristics or highlights. Traditionally, sawn or sliced is the most best preferred look from people. Not to say that the rotary product is a bad product. It's not. Just visually, sometimes people do prefer it. It's a little more uniform, and that's that type of customer that's going to be looking for something more uniform. Of course, if something's stained, depending on the color of the stain, it may or may not be noticeable a lot of the time. So I just wanted to go over the veneers and how they're made, and then I wanted to give you a couple other things. When we make the veneer, first of all, the tree started off with 50% moisture. And I put Slurpee up here because to me that means 7-Eleven. And 7-Eleven is moisture content. That's usually what, after the tree has gone in and been dried or kiln dried, that's the moisture content that we like to leave in the tree, so it's very stable, so it works in all environments and the wood is very comfortable. On top of that, once it gets cured to this percentage, we mount it on a substrate. And this is cross-banded or alternating. So the veneer would go here, and one layer goes this way, one layer goes this way. And this creates dimensional stability. This also creates a sandwich. I know this is kind of crazy, and that's why I write Subway. But a sandwich, these plies, what we call plies, vary, and they can be a 3-ply, a 5-ply, a 7-ply, or a 9-ply board, a substrate. And what that is the balance. Now if you have a very thick veneer on top, you need to have a very thick product to balance it. Otherwise, when the wood decides to move, even with the stable moisture content, if it wants to move a little bit, if it's not balanced like a sandwich, it will cup. The wood will just peel right up off. So typically when you're talking about really low-end hardwoods, a 3/8 inch product, typically it's usually a 3-ply, possibly a 5-ply, and the veneer is very, very thin. When we start going into heavier veneers, you're always going to get at least a 1/2 inch, a 9/16, in some cases even 5/8 inch product, because they need the extra plies to balance the top layer of veneer so it doesn't cup and move on top of the product. So really quickly too, I'd like to talk about veneer thicknesses. There's actually less than 2 millimeter veneer. We don't really sell a lot of that. It's very, very thin. They can actually go to 0.6 of a millimeter if you can. It's not much thicker than a piece of paper. It's very, very thin. We usually do a 2 millimeter, most of our products. But this year we're going to move into some heavier things. We're going to go into 4 millimeters and possibly even 5 millimeter product. When we do that, that's the actual veneer top. So if you picture how thick that is, if you took a piece of solid wood, that looks something like this. Keep in mind, whenever you're selling solid or against solid, which we don't sell a lot of, because every time that you install solid, you need to drive a nail through the tongue, through this portion of the hardwood, to lock it in place to the subfloor down here. So this distance here usually only ends up being about 3 millimeters. So I often wonder why people try and buy solid hardwood, because there's no benefit if you buy a quality pre-finished product. It's more stable, it has a better moisture controlled content to it, it's been through a factory, it's been kiln dried, It's had aluminum oxide applied to the finish. It's done in a controlled environment with humidity versus on the job site in a lot of cases, which, you know, depending on how the product dries, it's been applied, you're at the mercy of the weather, how much dust is in the home, a whole bunch of other factors come into play. So I really encourage you to buy engineered product. Try and stay away from solid. We do not glue solid to concrete. Some people do it. I've seen it done. I've also seen big problems with it. We're going to stick to doing our engineered products on concrete. It is built for that. That is what's recommended. No one's going to tell you and certify a solid piece of lumber glued down on concrete long term. So a couple interesting product lines. We're going to expand our hardwood coming very, very soon. I'll show you what's coming. We're going to come out with a new label. It's going to be called Trends. Most of these products will be a wider width board or have some type of multi-width, something a little bit different than our traditional products that we're using now in S&G. Lastly, we're going to go with a new product line with a blue label, and it's going to be called Heavenly, because truly that's what it is. These will be all sawn or sliced veneers, so it's premium type of product. Creme de la creme, great visuals, wide boards, of course, big thickness. Some of these products will be aluminum oxide. We might have a product that will be a UV cured urethane. I'm still not going to dive into oil products. I don't believe that is the way the market should go. I don't want people working on their day off, long weekends, applying oil to their finish of their hardwood floor. This product in particular could just be it's UV cured, so occasionally there might need to be like a restore type of product put on the finish, which we will carry. So that's wrapping it up for hardwood. I hope you learned about lumber, I hope you learned about solid, I hope you learned about trees, and I hope you find some diamonds.